Are going on. Ooh, come on. Recording is on. Sure. Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by transmitting the meeting notice to the official newspaper, providing a copy of the agenda to the newspapers, and posting a copy of the agenda at Borough Hall.
Prior to the meeting, by our.
Dwyer, Doherty, Herb,
Yeah.
Howard, Meyer, Redding, Tomko, Branston, Denblicker, Eckel.
Moving on, approval of minutes of the regular meeting on August 27th. I see that there is one correction that has been made. If Redding wasn't absent, she was not present at the meeting. Are there any further comments or corrections to minutes?
In the Scrosby update, board members said some. It's 2 hours.
I love the minutes that the correction. Thank you, James, your second.
Second.
Thank you, was that Martin?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Martin. If there's no further comment or corrections. Could I have a vote, please?
Dwyer,
Yeah.
Doherty,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Meyer, Redding, Tomko,
Yes,
Branston, Denblicker, Eckel.
do I also need to abstain?
You're right.
Moving on to the public comment portion of the meeting, this is the portion of the meeting where members of the public who are here to speak to items not on the agenda this evening. Are welcome to address the board. Is there anyone here to speak to items not on the agenda this evening? Please stand and state your name. And I think his address as well. We do name and address, sorry.
Sure. Frenchtown, Jersey. Just a question on the agenda, an addendum on the website and get confirmation. Ordinance number 940 is going to be on the agenda tonight.
That is actually the next thing on the agenda, so thank you very much, because it did get changed, and I'm gonna hand it to the attorney.
It's great to see so many people here, and I got my feet in line. So this was originally slated on the agenda for a consistency review and determination by this board. However, it appeared that there are going to be some amendments that need to be made before it can get to this board for that consistency determination, and that is going to be made in a public meeting by the Borough Council on October 1st. I've been asked to read into the record a correspondence from the Borough Attorney Albert Cruz directed towards our board secretary, and it says as follows. Dear Ms. Gravel, I am the Borough of Frenchtown attorney, and I am writing on behalf of the mayor and common council of the Borough of Frenchtown. On September 3rd, 2025, the common council introduced ordinance number 940, the land development ordinance permitting a class 5 cannabis retail within certain borough zones, and refer that ordinance to the Borough Planning Board for a master plan inconsistency review determination. On tonight's board agenda, ordinance 940 is scheduled for that master plan consistency determination. It is anticipated that amendments to ordinance number 940 will be proposed at the October 1st, 2025 Common Council meeting. Accordingly, in order to avoid a duplication of effort by the board, I request that ordinance number 940 be tabled by the board tonight, and that the master plan inconsistency review determination be undertaken by the board once ordinance 940 is reviewed by the Common Council as amended. And then once amended, ordinance 940 will be referred to the board for the master plan inconsistency. So that.
Thank you very much, Ted. Do you want to note when that, I think the date is on that, what time that came in this afternoon?
That was at 5:33 p.m.
So question, and since it is not on the agenda. And I couldn't understand where the guys.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So it needs to be brought back before Borough Council. There are some amendments that need to be made to the ordinance. before it can get to our desks here.
Okay,
Okay, so the ordinance is going to be given a first reading with revisions
okay.
at the Borough Council's October 1st, 2025 meeting.
And the
And
planning board is going, at some time, is going to confront this question of cannabis retail out. Is that true?
the board will be determining whether the ordinance as proposed is consistent with the borough's master plan. That's
Okay.
only that is the purview of this board. That is all we are asked to do with that ordinance. If you wish to propose any amendment or express any comments or concerns, I would recommend that you go to the borough council meeting and give public
Okay,
comment.
but I'm here right now. I just want to make a very simple point. I've heard.
Hold on, we don't know, I know your name, but you haven't stated your name for the record or your address, so you need to state your name for the record. You need to state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Sergeant Russell. 320 Avenue. Two sites that were mentioned for this outlet abut my property. And I want to know whether the ordinance, which I believe specified, I don't know what it did, but it seems to me that it specified locations. What am I supposed to do if I want to say something that they're going to make this outlet abut my property? When is it appropriate for me to address somebody?
You would speak to the council at their October 1st meeting. Yes?
That's another.
Well, again, Frenchtown. The question I have, this is not a couple things.
And I
Wednesday, in Frenchtown School in the loan for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you. Yes, Martin, your question?
The comments are for issues not on the agenda. And that issue is not on the agenda. Then is there some reason, especially since the attendees here made one reason that commentary can't be taken on the subject? It fits the classification of not being an agenda.
That is true, but at this point, and I'll let the attorney correct me if I'm wrong. An ordinance that is being written and proposed by the council, not the planning board, and the only job that we will have at our, presumably our board meeting will be determined if the ordinance is not consistent with the master plan. That is the only question before us.
Yeah.
So, yes. They may be speaking to the wrong body, if they're trying to make any changes in the ordinance. Yes, Ted.
If it's not things that we want to talk about, the board is,
To the council?
sorry, yes, the council. Says planning board, yes, that's what I said.
Ted?
So the board's purview is just to determine whether or not the ordinance as proposed is consistent or not inconsistent with the master plan. If there are any recommendations that the board makes to make that ordinance more consistent with the master plan, the board would propose those amendments when it's time for the consistency review at the board's October meeting, which will then be delivered via correspondence from my office or from Sam to the Borough Council to be submitted to the board on second.
To the council.
The Borough
Submitted to the Borough Council.
Yeah.
So people could be risking commenting on something which may then be changed. Some people like, because you don't know what was going to be, what's intended. My question is, considering there are a bunch of people here, people have changed their schedules, got babysitters and things like that. If they're willing to take the risk of addressing something that may then be amended and make a comment, is there any reason that they can't?
For everybody to look at the
new ordinance and show up on October and say their comments to the board that actually include drafting. We're not drafting. We're just gonna review it. Are we gonna see if it's consistent or it's not inconsistent? We're not making changes. If somebody wants to make changes, October 1st, Brad, at 7 o'clock, show up. How can they get a copy of that?
Doctor, right? There's technical changes that have to be made based upon common questions that require reintroduction. So we don't have a final draft form yet, because outside counsel is incorporating stuff that came back from a planner.
And I don't disagree at all. In terms of, again, taking the risk of making something that may not be or may be different from what the proposal is. But we get people here. And if they are willing to take that risk, is there any reason we should not? What's the outcome? What's the outcome? We're not tracking the orders. We're not. It's fine that.
And for the interest of everybody's time, it would be better if the public went to the Borough Council meeting on October 1st to make their comments and concerns known to the body that's going to be drafting the ordinance.
I hear that, and again, I agree with what I'm saying, there are specifics, right, zones, rules, details, and then there are general principles about consistency, and again, people are here. And although it may not be efficient, and again, I'm not suggesting that there's going to be any great insight, that would change anybody's mind or inform the specific language in the ordinance. But again, if people say, I understand all that, but I'd like to make a comment tonight. Is there, again, I would ask, is there any reason other than inefficiency that they can't?
I would strongly encourage people to come to our October 1st meeting. We paid the expense of renting the school to make sure we have ample room for folks. We're bringing in a facilitator for the conversation. We've had numerous public input sessions which have gone into the crafting of the overarching ordinance for public consumption. We've now went through the effort of making sure it's technically correct. We know we have to make some changes for introduction. If folks love it, they express that position. If they hate it, they can express that position. If they have no position, they can express that as well if they have questions. But I think that's the best venue for this. I know we had multiple, again, public sessions going into this. We have a good sense of where folks are kind of at. And I think the school will be a great venue, just like we did at the last public hearing. We had nearly an hour of public comments.
And we have to do both of these things.
But this isn't body.
Right.
Well, this isn't.
This is the body to determine whether or not the ordinance, which is not the house, we have so is it consistent with or inconsistent with, not inconsistent with the master plan. And I was.
Have the ordinance in front of us. We don't have the ordinance in front of us, so taking comments about
When-
a lot of ordinance, but you don't have a final version of the law.
Are you going to have a meeting after you
So
look
the
at
process,
the
the process, as I understand it, is at the October 1st meeting of council at 7 o'clock at Frenchtown School. They will be introducing first reading of a amended ordinance. There will be plenty of room for public input and discussion at that. They've got a facilitator, they've got a large space. Then it will come back to this body, it will come back to the Frenchtown Planning Board at our October meeting, whose date I do not have off the top of my head, but it will come back to us
October 22nd.
October 22nd, 7:30 here in Borough Hall, for us to determine whether or not the proposed ordinance is not inconsistent with the master plan. That will be the challenge before us.
Randy, that is that council at its earlier of the meeting has
It's October 1st meeting, yeah.
approved
adopted.
Okay.
We introduced.
For us, but this.
Doctor probably has a new update, you want to pull us out of that.
Well, this afternoon.
So then after it comes to us for a determination of whether or not it is whether it is or is not inconsistent with the master plan, it will then go back to council for a second reading. At that time, council can also consider any comments that are sent back from the planning board regarding the ordinance as it pertains to consistency with the master plan, and then upon second reading, that's when council would take a vote. Is that correct? But, yes, Ted.
Yeah, and. Okay. That's correct. So council can, for that if they wish to. So. We sort of. Or.
Well, or another way to say it, this body has a very limited jurisdiction in terms of looking at the ordinance when it's revised by council at the first meeting in terms of assessing its relationship to this. That's all this body does.
Public testimony.
That will not be a public hearing.
No, so. Any comments? If you have specific. See the state law, or ordinance that urgent. If you tell me where was that accurate?
I believe so.
And just generally, any comments or concerns should be directed towards the Borough Council, as they're the ones that are going to actually be having the public hearing and taking the public's comments and concerns and questions.
So the phrase has been final. On this subject. There will be specifics in the ordinance, right, about zoning and volume amounts and dollars and hours and all that sort of thing, right? But there's also the big general question that, okay, is the council's jurisdiction now? Whether cannabis itself, big picture, is consistent or inconsistent with the master plan. Something that may be an issue that will be part of the discussion regardless of the specifics of the ordinance. And to that extent, again, if people want to comment on that, this evening in terms of things to think about in advance, I don't see any harm in people raising certainly, again, hours of operation, and you're not talking sales tax amounts, none of those things, right? Because those go all pay. But when we're talking about consistency with the master plan, inconsistency or not inconsistent with the master plan, that could be a bigger picture item when it supersedes any of the details or amendments and goes to the whether or not we're going to have approval of some cannabis store in Frenchtown. And so again, I don't see any harm, or if people understand that in terms of shutting down public comment or allowing public comment, why do you allow that public comment?
I think the only harm is with setting an expectation that equal to this board is the council to not. Yeah, I mean,
That's not actually.
I think we've made that. Well, except for the handful of people here.
October first, public impact is October first. So you're gonna hear things, and I would imagine you're gonna take them into consideration before you give that to us.
Yeah, I would strongly say. Sure. Question about it. We have an outside counsel that's only do for living as long as cannabis stuff, brought in to help advise. That's a great venue to express your position to the government. So, I don't know what we said, it's just that's gonna be the time. And we did pick the school out specifically for adequate space. Have a facilitator and.
Will that be available to the public before that meeting, that, so that they actually can read it and know it? No.
Ordinances are not published until they're introduced. Once the ordinance is introduced, then it's available from the borough clerk by request. It's not actually posted to the website because it's not been adopted. Only an adopted ordinance is published to the website. So this is just how the process works. It's not unique to this. Madam Chair, I'd like to say one more thing if I may briefly. So I just want to explain how we got to this point, because it's my responsibility. Darlene, I'm a planner. You had not seen the ordinance. You didn't see the ordinance before we introduced it at council meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to make a point. So we developed this ordinance. My name's John Doherty, but hello. We developed the ordinance as a subcommittee over, if you were at the meeting last time, the council meeting in early September, you saw, I talked about the process. So when we decided to reintroduce it or to bring it before council, I thought, okay, this ordinance is ready to go because we had worked on it together with Darlene, et cetera. And we had our special counsel look at it, and he streamlined some of the procedural components of it, but didn't change the substance. I did not, however, forward it to Darlene at the same time, which I should have done. So she, after we introduced it, she looked at it and said, wait a minute, there's some things in here that need to be addressed. So that's why it had to be pulled off the agenda today, because there's things that need to be addressed, to put it simply. So I wanted to make that clear. That's my responsibility. And I think that it's awkward. It's unfortunate. You all have come out here tonight expecting to talk about, the master plan consistency. I apologize that, we're not able to do that tonight. But at the same time, I think this points out or reinforces we have a careful, rigorous process. Our professionals are working with us carefully so we don't put a foot wrong in this process, and then we do it correctly. So with that, that's all I want to say.
Having said all that, and everyone being duly noted that really anything that you say to us about this ordinance, which isn't even before us, is not going to, you're not speaking to council, you're speaking to the planning board. If you let me finish my sentence, Sarge, excuse me. At this point,
I want to know when the board is going to answer my questions as a property owner. Not,
October first, council, that's a council question.
no, it isn't.
Council will answer you on October 1st.
With the other 500 people, I'm a property owner that's interested in what they're going to do. I
So
don't
that's a
think
question for
this.
council.
Is it going to come before the planning board and that we can speak to it?
If you will let me finish my sentence, Sarge. Having said everything we've said in the last 15 minutes, we've been talking about this. And knowing that the planning board only charge at our October meeting will be determined whether or not the ordinance that comes before us is or is not inconsistent with the master plan. We are still in the public comment portion of the meeting. And if anyone would like to now speak to the planning board, we have quite a few people here. I would like everyone to be limited to 1 minute brief comments. We will try to answer questions as, but let's see I don't think we're going to go very far on this because, as we mentioned, your questions and your problems that you need to address go to council, not to us at this time. But we are in the public comment portion of the meeting. If someone would like to speak to us, now would be the time. Yes, so the gentleman in the back of the black hat, please state your name.
That pretty good understanding towards ordinance. How can I get that good understanding of what town people think about? Also at the company, look at 5 years ago, 78% residents wanted to do something about them.
I think that's a valid question. referring to the ballot question about what the ballot? And then what's the ballot question, state of New Jersey, if you go to the website, there's in the section of New Jersey, there's a whole section on campus that has recordings, that has comments. So it's a good place to start. It was run by the state, town by town, the legislature voted put a ballot question out to the public. Okay, so we found out in New York about how it was run, how many people, Frenchtown, voters actually will, I would go to the website.
We have the information on there in terms of turnout and stuff like that. I don't know if we have that on there, but the Board of Elections will have it with the town clerk's site. Hope you want the stuff on the actual election.
And something like vaguely three-quarters of the 800
Yeah.
people who were in favor of legalizing marijuana, which is not the same thing. Maybe the country in town, because of.
Right.
I don't really deal with it. It's board and was 5 years ago, pre-COVID.
Thank you, sir, but we need to check, but the information is on the website and we need to move the meeting forward. Jean, you have a point?
I guess I just want to clarify or reiterate Ted's point, which is, it's one thing to ask Frenchtown voters if they think marijuana should be legalized or decriminalized. It's another thing to ask if it should be in their backyard. So I think there's been some conflation about that.
So noted, but that's again a question for Ken. Does anyone else have a comment? Which I would really like kept to 1 minute. Yes, sir.
Jerry, 27 Front Street. Are we saying that this has been approved and you're now just working out the details?
No, no,
Okay,
no.
that's just to
No,
understand.
it's going to be an ordinance by first reading for council on October 1st. Is that what? It's a draft ordinance.
The second question goes with this young lady said, is there a way of having a vote on the Frenchtown residents? Just on whether they.
That would go to council. That again, it's a question for
I'll
council.
be happy to.
Yeah, certainly the planning board doesn't determine whether or not we're having votes. Yes. Yes,
So my question is, if you guys can help or encourage the board to give more information on the whole town, what about the whole pros and cons about this project. We need more information because if you can come in here, we need more information, we need more. Pro against fine. It's not about against the marijuana. Everybody consumes marijuana, what wants to do. It's not about that. It's about the health of the people. And it's about the taker to the young people. And don't normalize the use of the substance to be that's my point. If you can tell guys.
thank you. There is a lot of information on our website.
I think there's more ways to inform the people. When you're going to run for some political position, you put inside each mailbox information about your name, what you want to do. If you can do that, run for some political position. I think this very important issue, you can do the same thing.
Thank you, Carlos. Well, actually, 2 years ago, whenever it was, we had the public listening sections, we did have mailers went out to every residence in Frenchtown. Yes, sir, gentleman in the black shirt, please stand, state your name.
I'm working all over. This is just a cross question. Like Denzel said in Philadelphia, like a 3-year-old. Who determines whether it's consistent? When and who determined whether the master plan is consistent with what this ordinance is consistent with the master plan? When does that happen? And if it's not determined to be consistent, is that a deal breaker? That's all I want to know.
It is determined, the current timeline that we're on, that will be determined at our October planning board meeting on, again, October 22nd. And we will be looking for advice from our planner, because that's what planners do. They are very good at knowing what is and isn't, they know master plans in and out. And then whatever we determine, we will advise council with that. And tell them what our determination is. If we find it inconsistent with the master plan, that is not a deal breaker. Because they do not need to take action on that. is my understanding. Is that correct, Ted?
Correct.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Boland, 4th Street. Just make, is the master plan for Frenchtown on the Frenchtown website? Like, how? Okay, you know, as a newer resident of 5 years, I've never seen it. I would like to. Give me.
Our relative borough clerk is checking in. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 1994 version is clearly later. You know, the latest.
Re-exam.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember time. That's the point.
So the adopted master plan, the document, it's. If you did, and the towns are required to re-examine plans on a regular basis. So if you look on the borough's website, you'll see the 94 official master plan, but if you just Google easily Frenchtown, New Jersey, master plan examination, you'll see when the board re-examined that original master.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Armand. You've already had your 1 minute, so excuse me.
So it's 3 p.m. So my question is, John, thank you for clarifying why. My question for myself is. Essentially extended, commercial units, 2 of which I believe are, or maybe 3 are partially residential and 4 are entirely commercial. I think the question is for the attorney and artist, is that considered a threshold towards spot zoning? When you have such a limited pool of available properties with your zoning? And sorry, I'll just kind of stay on 1 minute. And then my secondary question is regarding the master plan, because when I read it, 94 original plan and this amendment seems to be pushing retail traffic specifically toward commercial core, which the proposed ordinance seems inconsistent with that logic, irregardless of parking considerations, because Frenchtown, I believe, is very progressive and not.
Armand, thank you, but I believe if you go to the October 1st meeting of council, they will be addressing exactly why.
And we can't comment on an ordinance that we don't have in front of us that isn't for master plan consistency.
So they will address that at the council meeting about why the ordinance looks like it looks like. That is their job. Yes.
These are planning board matters. The master plan is a planning board matter. It doesn't really have anything to do with the council or with a whole crowd of people. Strictly speaking, Armin's talking about the commercial core of town. In a meeting in the auditorium, nobody knows about planning or cares about it. We, however, do, and we want to hear what the planning board has to say about the master plan and whether the ordinance or whether a lot of things are compatible, whether it's specific or not. And at that point, that is the October 22nd meeting, right? We will be able to address whether we think it's compatible with the master plan. No?
It's not a public hearing.
It is not a public hearing. Council is holding the public hearing on October 1st at their council meeting and again on second reading on their November 3rd council meeting, I think. If it's introduced.
And if something that advertised for a public hearing, and that would be a meeting in November.
And I'm gonna look to John.
November 5th.
That. And it's at the October 1st council meeting, there will be an explanation of the process that was gone through. And why some decisions were made the way they were made for the proposed ordinance, is that true?
Yes.
So that would be when the questions about why here and not there will be addressed by council at that time.
Then the planning board is not going to
Then it comes back to us at the October 22nd meeting to determine whether it's consistent or not inconsistent with the master plan. You can comment at that meeting, but it is not a public hearing. You can comment, but it is not a public hearing.
So just to clarify, I was just answering this question, at the October 22nd meeting, where
This.
of this planning board, where, assuming all this taking all we talked about, then where the issue of consistency and not can be voted on by this group, is this correct? We will, take public comment specific to people's opinion on whether or not it's consistent. We will hear, I guess the question, right, is when can people comment specifically on consistency with the master plan, which is the wording that matters has to do with here.
Question. Concerned about inconsistent or inconsistent master plan, they should comment on it at the October 1st meeting of council, because the council is going to be they will be making amendments or not to the proposed ordinance. That is not what we will be doing. We will be deciding whether it is consistent, whether it is not inconsistent with the master plan. But council, if you have concerns about whether it is consistent or not inconsistent with the master plan or other concerns, the venue for that is the public hearing, and council will be holding the public hearing on October 1st at their council meeting at Frenchtown Borough School at 7 o'clock meeting.
Madam Chair, just let me. At our October 1st meeting, we're going to be considering whether or not to introduce the amended ordinance.
Council doesn't have the votes.
Right, of course, we vote on whether to introduce, but we are not having a public hearing on October 1st because the public hearing happens after.
The public advertised, so what we would do is introduce the ordinance.
Right.
I understand what we talked about the technical changes that have
Right.
evolved since the last version.
Mm-hmm.
And council voted to introduce it,
Right.
publicly advertised in the papers. The actual public hearing would happen in our November.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
I was
Right.
incorrect.
Yes.
I apologize.
Yeah.
And
That we consider the second reading, and at that November meeting, the council would ultimately decide to continue the public hearing. Testimony, make amendments, or they could end the public comment, public hearing, and go to.
Hey Greg, based on that schedule, it might be helpful for the people in the audience to insert when it comes to this work.
I think once we get a final verdict,
So not till November?
the vote won't happen, an actual vote on adoption will not happen, so.
if
So they would come before us,
Yeah, you guys-
if they introduce it on October 1st.
Meeting come here, but the council, a vote up or down on it wouldn't happen until.
So I think for the public, it's important to understand that there's a lot of ifs. Like if it gets introduced and if the council moves it on first reading, then it comes here for our October meeting. Right? Am I getting it right?
Yeah, if it gets introduced at October first, come back here.
But
Obviously, if it doesn't get introduced at the October
but
meeting,
we don't know what happened.
And then again, application, the opportunity for the public to comment specifically on our planning board issue of consistency with the master plan. That will, in addition to whatever, comments to be made at the council meeting, we will, is this, I'm making a statement, but asking a question. We will expect comments to help educate, inform us, get us an idea, but specifically on the issue of consistency with the master plan at the meeting where that issue is raised here.
I don't think we've ever, in all my years of planning board, had anyone ever come in and comment on whether or not any ordinance that was before us. We never had any input from the. Whether or not something was consistent or inconsistent with the master plan. So I asked about it because since we're not having a public hearing, how we, or should we take public testimony? or comments. And he said that when it came before us for, our determination, if it's not inconsistent with the master plan, it was to the board's discretion whether or not they wanted to hear comments from the public. But since the public certainly seems very interested in this, I anticipate that in October we'll be taking public comments. Assuming that it is before us as a question on our agenda. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that the amendments will be introduced at the end of the first meeting. And not necessarily that the ordinance will be introduced, the amendments only.
It'll be a fully amended.
So the draft ordinance will be introduced at that meeting on the 21st. I understand that a draft ordinance copy will not be made available to the public. However, I'd like to confirm that I can contact Sam and ask her for a copy to review it ahead of time for those people that do well by reading before listening.
So once if on October 1st, the council introduces the amended ordinance, the following day it would be available to the public through Sam, but you need to contact her to request it.
Okay.
That's how the process works.
So there won't actually be something to read through while being presented at a meeting.
That's correct.
We'll be listening.
Yep. And, you know, we're having it at the school because we want to hear, there will be a public comment period where people can voice their views.
We have two public comment sessions that are meeting. What's gonna happen is, my understanding, and I got a phone call after work today, this is all happening, it's happening, one of our council president was involved, outside council, and other whole thing. My understanding is the structure of the ordinance that was previously introduced, that foundation is not really changed.
That's correct.
What I understand is that language changes that have to be made based upon feedback from the planner to make sure it lines up. But the overall structure, my understanding, what council initially introduced last time, it'll have to be reintroduced. That structure of that ordinance is not fundamentally changed.
That is my understanding.
Brad, is that available? That original, is
Yes,
that available?
Yes.
So if you're saying you're only gonna change the words.
That's my understanding.
So this group can get a hold of that.
Yes.
And read it and be prepared for the first and.
Yeah. I would say to read the existing ordinance, that's pretty much what we're gonna be talking about. Substantial.
And you'll be able to outline at that time, make sure you can be maybe highlight as you do the reading where
Yes.
the changes are. Previously, we'll walk through it. There we go. Yep.
Where they would have been made into the ordinance that we're considering.
Yeah.
We could say that.
Yes,
It's gonna
Chad.
take longer, but we have the lawyer here. He said that people won't be able to get it except by contacting them, right? They'll be that, let me put it on site.
Because it hasn't been adopted.
But not in ordinance sections.
One, if people want to get the old, if people want to get the ordinance that hasn't been revised, it's a part of the public record.
But no, he's talking about the day after council.
The day after. Council introduced the public document, it'll be on the website, it's gonna be available, the advertising.
It's not on the website.
It'll be for the minutes.
But I know it's a little confusing.
No, the draft document. The public document, they have the public hearing.
Yeah,
The kid was gonna come to us, Joey.
I know, I've been talking to Sam about this because a number of people have been asking. And my understanding is that ordinances aren't published on the website until they're adopted. Right, because I know there's
By the ordinance.
So if you request it from Sam, it would be theoretically,
Let me talk to our, let me have a meeting with her. I think we can resolve this, my understanding.
we could put on, this is a draft, like, county, and we'll just do it that. I think that's the thought. We'll put watermark.
Like the website, like if you're, there's so many people.
Yeah.
Interested, if you're interested, here's the process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions before I close the public comment portion? Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you're welcome to sit around. All right, clerk, folks, in the audience, secretary, be quiet, we still don't have business. Closing the public comment, of course, of the meeting, moving on to all business. Very, very briefly, Darlene, could you give us a very quick update on the affordable housing situation?
Yes, so to refresh the memory, we had to file a housing plan by June 30. Otherwise, we would lose our immunity from voter remedy lawsuits. We filed before the deadline. There was then a 60-day window where anyone could file a challenge against our housing plan. Everyone in the state had the same challenge window. That ran through August 31st. We received one challenge from Fair Share Housing Center. It's my understanding that 424 declaratory judgment actions were filed. That means there's 424 towns participating in this process, filing housing plans. Fair Share Housing Center filed over 400 challenges. So that means almost everyone who filed a housing plan received a challenge. On top of that, developers, residents, townships, actually, I have one township suing another township. Anyone could file a challenge. So just to give you an idea, I submitted 16 housing plans. I have 34 challenges for all of my towns. You are in the lucky group that only received one challenge. In the not so lucky group are my two sad towns that received 5 challenges. So we are now waiting for the court to notify us of our mediation date. I've already spoken to Mr. Cruz, the borough attorney. We went through all the challenge points. It's clear that they did not read our documents thoroughly because they asked questions where we clearly had provided the information. They just didn't read every line of our document, nor did they actually go the whole way through the appendix, which you will recall was voluminous because they said we failed to provide deed restrictions. We provided all the deed restrictions. Mr. Cruz and I met with the Affordable Housing Subcommittee on Monday night. We've drafted a path forward, and so we'll be preparing a supplemental submission to the court in advance of our mediation date, which has yet to be scheduled. Likely to occur over the next 30 to 40 days.
Thank you. You're welcome. You will keep us posted.
I will keep you posted on our program.
Very good. Moving on to.
Okay, so committee is having its next meeting tomorrow, and also for the members of the public, the borough has received a grant from the New Jersey Department of Services. It's a planning grant to focus on building an age-friendly Frenchtown. And so there's a community committee. The focus right now in terms of the work plan is we're creating an inventory of the existing services that are available to older residents on the premise that there's more services than we may be aware of, and we need to make them more present. And so the committee will be reviewing the draft of that inventory. There'll be a community survey. And so the committee will be reviewing a draft of that survey to try to cut it back to be an hour long, to maybe 15 minutes. And then we have a list of key informants of community leaders that we want to talk to in terms of who engage locally regularly with older residents to hear from them. The mayor's hosting a town hall on October 11th. It should be at the school, so it's more accessible to hear about age-friendly issues. And the committee will be talking about how to get the word out about that. And so very much this first, between now and the end of the calendar year, we're focusing on a little listening, and then come the new year, we'll be focusing on looking at strategies in terms of addressing issues. One other thing that we'll be talking about for the committee is something that's been a chronic issue here at the planning board regarding home to address medically necessary renovations to address age
aging in place issues, and so the committee will be looking at some things that Darlene's put together as well as an update. On demographics associated with older residents in the town.
Gene, I was asked, auditorium or the cafeteria?
I think cafeteria,
Okay.
yeah. And I'm thinking, I think cafeteria, yeah.
I agree.
It seems and
Yeah.
then we can. And then we'll, tomorrow on our agenda, Vinny is to talk about how to structure the meeting, and then we'll loop back to you. So you're not. Stay.
The cafeteria is much more age friendly, quite frankly.
In, so then these snacks.
I do love the auditorium, because the cafeteria is.
Some aging, the best subcommittee was.
We do, we get it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Yes, apparently. Moving on to the escrow fee update. For the benefit of the folks that are here, because we do have a large audience. One of the things that, escrow fees and application fees, particularly escrow fees, Frenchtown is, a little bit behind in, so when we have applications, we wind up having to go to developers and builders and ask them to re-up their escrow fees again and again and again and again. For the second time in 5 years or 6 years, we're looking at our escrow fees to bring them more in consistency with the municipalities so that we don't have to either misrepresent how much it might cost to do some of these things in the borough, but also to make a more efficient process so that our clerk and staff doesn't spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get people to re-up their escrows. This has nothing to do with taxes, this has to do with applications for site plan application and variance applications and those things in the borough. So because we do have a large audience, instead of sort of going into the phone and any idea talking about, I thought I did.
So, Randy, how do we move towards action on this? Because clearly this is like so incredibly helpful, what Sam put together. And clearly we are a bit ahead of time, so like.
So what we do is we're gonna go down the Frenchtown proposed color. And we're going to see what we would like to recommend.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward. This requires amendment of the borough ordinance, because these fees are in the borough ordinance. So this is gonna take a little time to cobble together. But that's what we did last time.
I just have one question on it. Then subdivision, just counting. Refer to the proposed, that was blank in the proposed column, underneath subdivisions.
Yeah, and so if there's nothing, if there's a blank, they're staying the same, there are no recommendations, correct? And I did want to point out, actually, and Sam will help me with this, but Borough of Milford, Alexandra, and one other borough.
Glen Gardner
And
and Franklin, I think. Franklin.
And Franklin, they're all also looking for this process. They're really glad we're undertaking it, because they also want to raise their, because it becomes a very inefficient process, very frustrating for applicants when they think that they can get, a variance interpretation for, and I'm making up numbers here, not looking at the numbers here, but a variance interpretation for $50, and we have to keep going back to them for more escrow. So yes,
So I was. If I were to, in this context, I look at this, what percentile do we want? And is it?
okay, I looked at averages, I didn't look at percentile. Okay.
Right. I was. Just give some. Going to. Want to go that route? Have numbers here.
So these are the proposed values?
So I have both calculating percentile and the proposal.
That's Sam's proposal.
Sam's proposal, what percentile is and when. To get us specifically.
Why don't you just give it, why don't you just give us the percentiles? And
all other. 50th percentile. Variances. We've got 71st percentile, the 3rd percentile, 70th percentile, 6th percentile. So kind of like, you know. I can keep going.
Tell me, I like what you're hearing about for everything. Sure. Regardless of percentile, because you know, on the agenda is so rapture approval. So if we're charging something $200 or something that costs us $100, I don't care about percentage, percentile.
Well, this isn't the chart, right? No, yeah. That's fine.
Right.
Well, an application fees, so the top part of this is application fees. You said we've got application, and then we're calling it escrow fee review, but the first half is that is application fees, and then both the escrows. So the application fees, you know, yes, because we're also covering, you know,
Paper, ink.
these things all take time for the office staff to take care of, so, and time is money because we pay people, so yes, we need to make sure that we're covering the office staff's time. In addition to the escrow fees, which are really, those are paying our professionals. More. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Well, third, sure, depends. One of the things that I looked at this slightly different instead of going percentiles is, you know, I looked across to see what the averages were. And if you look across the columns, you see that for some of these, the fees are literally all over the place from municipality to municipality. I did not drop out the ones that I already know they're talking about raising their fees. So honestly, comparing our fees to the other municipalities, when we know at least 3 of them are planning on raising their fees, is also a little disingenuous. I think the best we can do, unless we want to Ted do a percentile analysis and come back to us with not Ted's, well, that Ted,
Yes.
that Ted, not that Ted is. Sorry. Ted.
I'm not the.
Fair. You know, we can either, you know, go with Sam's recommendations. I was actually looking at the fee recommendations for the concept and formal review and classification. So this is right above escrow fees, that is this block here, and we're below everybody's average. I was going to suggest actually higher numbers than Sam had over in there. She seems happy with that.
But so I guess the question would be what are the bases of the proposal? So my guess is for Sam, it's like the lab test, whereas for Ted, it's a little bit more analytical. So which direction do we want to go?
Well, it's a tricky thing because we don't know. And I don't think any of these municipalities will ever know exactly how much time it takes the office staff to manage a minor site plan. Which is going to be also going to be a little bit, so I think we're trying to bring ourselves, we know that our numbers are too low.
Yeah.
Because we're not covering and we are below the area average, shall we say, for many of these. And we know that escrows are a big problem and have been for some time, even though we have them, I think it was 2020, 2022, whatever.
Yeah, it was before I got here, so.
Always trying to buy. I understand.
Yeah.
So what is Milford doing, what is needed? Have some level of consistency, these lines, and then generally speaking, broad, somebody called and say, you know, you bastard from Frenchtown charge $100, I want to know if it, you know, that's usually the phone call we get. So,
Right, and but, look at the bulk variance escrow fee, you know, we're at $750. Holland charges $3,000. You know, Alexandria charges $2,000. We're and the planner who's been billing against these things, he just said to me, we are woefully inadequate.
I admit, Sam's very kind, but you need to update all these subdivisions.
That's what I wanted to hear.
How about Darlene?
I can tell you exactly how much.
Yes.
You're gonna get a Darlene letter, depending on a minor subdivision. Bob and Darlene are gonna charge more than $750 to write their initial letters. And it all depends on the kind of application we receive. If it's put together and well written, it won't take that much time. If it's a hot mess, that $750 is gone before we even talk to them.
That's probably where you, baseline. For staying.
Yeah, you can do that.
Important, yeah.
You don't need exactly, but I'm sure, Sam gets four of these a day, 10 of these a day, so we'll get them in 6 weeks, in 2 weeks, how many hours do you spend? If you're off by a few percentage, that doesn't matter. The question is, again, it's just that sort of article, it's like, let's make sure we're covering our costs. It's nice that it's not costing us money that we have to have big vouchers because the fees didn't cover what it actually costs.
Why then? Oh, the vouchers I don't think are.
No, the vouchers,
No.
sorry,
It's just chasing money for a bonus. Yeah.
so we could move forward by literally, at least for the escrow fees go. We could, throw the escrow fee section, and ask very briefly for our planner, our engineer, and our attorney to simply weigh in on what they think this.
Darlene's already going.
I'll be right now.
Love
Well,
it.
all right, then, go, we have, but we could just do that and come back and look at this.
Yeah.
At our next meeting, because this, there's nothing. The house is not on fire, we don't need to deal with this right now, we're simply moving forward in a more reasonable state, and I think perhaps, maybe I will sit down with. Sam and, or maybe Ted sit down with Sam, and look at the percentiles for the application fees. And see if we can get our application fees more in line with at least 50th percentile. So that we're not. Bearing in mind that some of these other groups are planning on raising their fees to make sure that we're covering office costs. So maybe Ted can work with Sam on that and we'll get information from our professionals to come up with some hard numbers proposed with those inputs. Does that make sense?
That's great.
All right, so Sam, can you reach out to
Bob.
the
Engineer.
Bob and Steve? Ted's just sort of staring at, are you gonna do it by hand while we're sitting here?
Do you need a pen? I have one.
Why don't you run it past Steve and then send it to us? Okay.
He's the one that's in charge of billing, so.
Okay, run it past Steve. So send a follow-up email to these three, get some numbers and this Ted.
Yeah.
I know, because you don't have time to do it otherwise. This Ted will get in touch with Sam and then we'll come back and have some numbers. Bingo. Yeah, I'm just sitting here doing it. Perfect. And let's take a hard look also at the ones where we're not proposing an increase, make sure that we're not, let's look at all columns, even where there's no increase proposed, and so that we're in a reasonable percentile. One. And we would put that back then on the October agenda, and if the October agenda meeting runs long, we'll simply carry that to the next. Signing committee update, despite the fact that an awful lot of people have a lot of interest and opinions on signs in Frenchtown, it looks like the committee is gonna be Paul and I, because no one else. Okay, we got a third. I would do it. Can you lawyer age? Yeah, I'm obsessed. Okay, I know you are.
Okay.
Okay, no, take him a second. All right, very good. So we've got a sign committee, the clock is ticking on that, we have work to do. Moving on to
Back.
on to new business, there is nothing, there's no bit, that was gonna be the organ. Vouchers. Somewhere, there's the voucher.
I'm on the voucher.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Marty said.
Marty seconded. If there are no comments or questions regarding the vouchers. Could I have a vote, please?
Dwyer, Dougherty, Herb.
Yeah.
Howard.
Yeah.
Meyer. Redding. Tomco.
Yes.
Denblicker. Eckel.
Yes. Moving on to correspondence, Council Rivers and with other items. I want to mention, because I forgot, I think on the agenda, that last month, Marty raised the idea of us trying to put together a simple, this is how a planning board works, website, and I talked to, Jason Kessler, the executive director of NJPO. And, sort of interestingly, you can hear someone's eyes cross over the phone, he was like, simple. Training takes hours, I'm like, yeah, I know. So he was going to look into it to see if some of the slides that they use for training might be something that we can adapt, and we have a meeting of the board this coming Monday, and I was going to ask for it to be an agenda item on, and I can see if any other municipality in the state has something like that, just in their back pocket that we can adopt and use, where we have just sort of a, again, trying to make the public understand better what the planning board does, because most of them have no idea what we do. But I'll say, you know, this is what a planning board does, this is what a board of adjustment does, we're both, see if we can come up with something. This, if we have to recreate it from the ground up, this may take some time, but, we'll see if we can get something from NJPO to start, because, it's, right now, it's, you know, 4 hours training or nothing, so we'll see what we can do on that, I think take some action on that, and I'm gonna follow up this Monday at our board meeting.
Oh, now here we go. It's good, you know, translating stuff for people, finding people listening, all that kind of stuff. So in terms of helping with adjusting the slides, we wonder in Frenchtown, working with
Is that? I think also it'd be very helpful to have folks who have not been on the planning board for a very long time involved in it, because some of the things that seem
Right.
more obvious to me, you know, I realize over and over again, are not necessarily obvious to certainly the audience. So, so that's all I have that I can think of. Council representative report, what have we got, John?
Well, next Wednesday, first meeting. We're going to
Really?
consider
Sorry.
the cannabis ordinance. Let me think. I always text Brad before this meeting, says, what do I have to talk about? So,
I liked it through several last meeting.
yeah, fun to you, coming up on the agenda for fall. Halloween parade, it's a little, well, obviously, when is something to do?
We're waiting for the Legion. We're usually it's Saturday before Halloween.
Yeah, because Halloween is
Yeah.
like a long time, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Halloween, of course, will be our normal Halloween.
And what's the candy?
Yeah.
You're planning
The 25th is Halloween.
You guys go to a planning board member to get candy from your house at that.
Same.
Since they have been every year, or trick or treat.
Oh,
Or
uh,
second through sixth or
Yes.
something, upper and lower.
That's all I have.
Brad, where have you gone? I also have to get the environmental point, don't forget, I got left off, I'm gonna make sure you get in there, I forgot to tell him.
to welcome Mr. Wires.
Yes, of course. You know,
Compliment, he actually just sort of grant for the borough through Hunter County. That's gonna pay for our alpha test machine in the police department. Central Livestock. And that's a great acquisition for us, because just to put in perspective, that grant for one county unaffected.
Woo-hoo.
nice, nice, thank
Is it for fingerprinting or alcohol or?
Fingerprint. They got everything, we would gotten both. Everybody waiting for it in count. So, but it's still $30,000+.
Is it iPads where you put your hand down on it?
It's the TSA get fingerprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to Identico, get fingerprint, it's the same, yeah, so. On CIC.
Right, I say this, the chief, we've rolled all mine. It's just out of there.
You'll have to go back.
No, thought it was a lot longer, otherwise we got it.
And Bert Beaver's doing a great job as our new DPW director. And we get these nice weekly reports now with digital images and work being done, so that's a nice new upgrade. They just finished the catch basin up Orchard Bend that was out for about a year, so that's good, it's done. And we'll wait to hear back from DOT, our local aid application for South Washington Street and River Road. We're hopefully to do that project this fall, we'll see. We've gotten some feedback on 7th Harrison Street paving, and that's gonna be calibrated at the meeting with them because of the Safe Routes to School program. When the DOT approves and their comments on paving, one of the things they'd like to see is that ADA upgrades are being done. And because our ADA upgrades on those ramps are tied to Safe School, they're not looking to necessarily let us work our money go forward until that's resolved. And so we have to have a meeting with them. We have a real challenge right now with certain properties that are still pulling out and not consenting to give us the taxes. And so I think we're down to 5%. Right now, 5. Have continued to pull. So we are seeing what we can do. But it's very frustrating.
All right. Environmental Commission update, what have we got?
Some confusion of the process for the open space committee Thompson track thing that I just talked to you about, maybe after this, just people are unclear what the actual process is.
I have emailed the subcommittee.
Okay.
I'm not sure about their needs.
It's unclear who's owning it and.
Borough owns it,
No,
the council. They write the checks.
Which is what famous.
Yes, thank you for reading them.
Yeah.
Rutgers is coming on October 1st to pick up some water management stuff.
This is all regarding the Thompson track.
Yeah.
Well, it's so in 2019, I think the borough did an impervious cover assessment.
Yes, we did.
Right, and so Rutgers has money from the state to come back to some of those towns to look at how do we take those impervious cover assessments and then design them to do nature-based infrastructure, and so they're happy to come here and look at some of the sites they assessed, including like the Borough Park, to see, okay, can we create a design for nature-based infrastructure there to address flooding, and then we could look for funds to implement some strategies. But while they're here, they have to look at the Thompson track as part of the development of a plan there and advise overall storm plan. So, and with no cost.
That's October 1st, 9 AM, right?
That's what done.
Yep.
And then last thing.
It's pretty good.
One member,
Yay.
the environmental commission email, and I think it was inviting folks to come to the commission. Shut up. Yeah, members, knowing who might want to be involved and show up at these meetings consistently. I just want to put the word out to whoever is watching on the internet. And who's really on hot. We don't have to publicly notice.
No, it is. It's publicly noticed. It has to be publicly noticed. That is there.
No,
That's
that's it. If there is nothing else.
I'm with you.
Thank you, Jean, is there a second?
sure. I'll take it.
Thank you, we have that second. We take our choice. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. All opposed?